ghostly mark. Cobwebs twine and shadows dance in this twilight somber trance. Candles flicker, weary wicks, ancient echoes, time's cruel tricks. Marble figures, frozen pose, amidst the silence sorrow grows. Whispering shadows, secrets keep in the depths where night meets sleep. Underneath the velvet gloom, guardians of the haunted room. Chandeliers and crystal tears reflect forgotten yesteryears, softly chanting distant cries. Through the arches sorrow sighs. Gargoyles watch with stony gaze, guardians of endless maze. Pipe organ's breath begins to rise, filling air with mournful ties. Whispering shadows, secrets keep in the depths where night meets sleep. Underneath the velvet gloom, guardians of the haunted room.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm hoping I have pressed all the right buttons and things are behaving themselves and the microphone is doing microphone things. And hi, chat. How are you? How is everybody? I hope we are doing well. I missed you guys last week. Turned out I had gastroenteritis, so that was fun. You have pressed at least some of the right buttons. Excellent. I'm very glad to hear this. I'm poking around at OBS and trying to make sure it's doing all the things it's supposed to do. Never Beagle's behaving. No, at the minute, touch wood, fingers crossed, the Beagles are good. Ceres is asleep on my hip. Anchor is asleep underneath my feet. And Pip is asleep on the beanbag. This is good, because when I tried to take them out for a walk earlier, we stepped outside the door and there was a deer just right there on the front lawn. And they almost pulled my arms out of their sockets. Bother them, please. I will bother Ceres. I will give her gentle pets, because she's been a very good girl and having a nice sleep. Grimos sometimes has to be the adult in chat. Oh, that sounds like a terrible idea. And I did see Grimos is up to concerning things, which carry on. That is on brand for us. Do not the gastroenteritis, it's bad. Yeah, I know. It was awful. Many pets are having. Hello, Lictor. Welcome back. We're with chat now. And yeah, things are happening.
What are you doing here?
Water break already. I can do a water break. My posture is terrible, but I'm doing my best. And I can do a stretch.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. And more pets. Sarah, you were getting all of the pets today. Oh, all for the hard work of just existing. What a good girl. What a good girl. And Night Owl has had curry, so I can now be very jealous.
Curry's good.
Yes. I like seeing deer around and about the place, but we only get small ones, and I don't know any doggos. I like seeing the deer around our estate. I'm a rural person. I like living rural. I just don't like it when my 3 hunting hounds see something that classifies as a prey species and try to drag my arms out of their sockets. That's the only downside. And Troa is committing tea crimes as usual. Good job, Troa. So yeah, I missed you guys last week. The week before, we did some Hefner stuff, which I was very appreciative of you guys joining in on. That was very cozy for me, especially as it's been a hard couple of weeks since then. Things have been busy. Things have been very busy, but we are back with Shoal this week.
We are.
And I was wanting to talk about some editing stuff and some plans for the end of the year because more stuff has been happening in the background, and it's exciting times. So,
should we show them the chibis?
You can show them. You can show them the chibis if you like. Sure.
I don't know. It's an easy, light subject.
Yeah, we might get to those in just a minute. The first thing I want to talk about those Goob drives. I have approached Diggs to start the next Goob drive in about 2 weeks. He hasn't gone back to me yet, but I don't imagine that's going to be a problem. And that will be an art piece, as is normal for my Goob drives. But the one I'm excited about is the Christmas Goob drive. Because for Christmas, I promised you guys an audiobook, and that is in the works and has started making some definitive strides forwards. We already knew who our voice cast was going to be, but Hungry for the Wolf, or Hungry Like the Wolf Rewrite, whatever you want to call it, is now complete. It has had its final edit after I left it alone for a couple of weeks, or a couple of months even. It's had its final edit. I'm happy with where it's at. It's very, very, very similar to what we read on stream when that was all done back in April. It's just had some tidy up around the edges is all, and I think like maybe 200 extra words added into the whole thing, so it's finished, which means I have now bludgeoned some editors over the head to generate scripts for me that I will then do a final pass over. I did not get back to you, Von Falkenstein. You're right. Thank you for reminding me. Scripts are currently being generated. Once that's done, which will be no later than the end of the month, I'll be able to sort of give you, hey, this is what the entire thing looks like, because I am trying to con Von Falkenstein into potentially doing the read for one of our characters for us. So... did you find the 200 most cursed words available? Not yet, because I'm saving those for the Christmas Goob drive. Because my intention for Christmas is you guys are getting the audiobook regardless. I promised that we would do that and that you guys would have it. And it's a nice expansion of my skill set. So we're definitely going to get the audiobook. But I think I would like to give you guys a Christmas episode that takes place after the end of the book. It will be a short story, just a one-shot, but I think that's going to be the Christmas Goob Drive, is a written piece rather than another art piece. I already have the idea of what the Christmas episode will be about. I think you guys will like it, but I would like it to be a surprise. But we will mess around with some Christmas romance tropes, be very silly with it like we did the last time, and also just poke fun at some really dumb decisions Catalyst made with the canon, and just Okay, am I back? Come on, internet, come back up.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank God for that. Okay, my internet did the thing it hasn't done since last July. That I thought we were over now. Yes, the gremlins did get me, Doctor Who. My sincere apologies. It's not you cutting out Lictor, that was me. Oh dear. So what I'm thinking is that it's the extreme heat might be affecting the internet, and I'm going to cross all fingers and toes that this doesn't happen again, because we don't need to be doing this.
No, we don't.
Yeah, either that or it's Comstar, yes, that the phone company has come to see if I have paid my bills. All right, I don't know where I got to before it cut out, but... Curse, very cursed. Your Alaric and Devendra are cute in a very mature way. I'm glad you think so, because that was the point. I've never understood the whole bad romance trope thing of just having hateable characters. Just why? And Alaric is so easy to write as an enjoyable character. He really isn't that hard. And Devendra as well, in many ways, was not that hard once I just stopped trying to treat them like what other people say they are. So...
Stupid.
My apologies to everybody who's like, oh no, is that my internet? No, it was my internet. Catalyst doesn't want me talking shit about their terrible romance novel they approved. How dare I?
How dare.
Oh dear. Digiman says I'm supposed to be the one with shitty internet. I mean, I live in stupid McRural area, and we're on City Fibre, and in general, it's very, very good. Right up until it's like the 4th of July, and the entire city is trying to use it at once, or it gets hotter than normal. I think must be what's affecting it. Either that, or Squick did say the room I'm in with my computer, which is very conducive to my ongoing work life, which... what's a day off? I've forgotten. It's great for that, but apparently I am in literally the worst room in the house for Wi-Fi signal. But, you know, we do what we can with what we have.
But we must.
Yes. Yes.
The good of all of Shoal.
Indeed. Yeah, so I don't know where I cut out, but plan for Christmas. I'm going to do a Christmas one-shot. I've already decided how I'm going to handle it. I've approached like my core people I work with this is my idea, and all of them have gone, that's brilliant. That's really funny. You should do that. So hopefully you guys will like it, and that will be the Christmas Goob Drive. Get wide internets put through the walls. We are in the process of doing that. It's just getting the right people to do the job and running all the stuff in all the different places and drilling holes in my ceiling. It's a bit of a hassle, but it is on the list of things to do. I just got to get this fence put up outside first so that when we want to do that, I can put the beagles outside and not worry about them. And to get the fence done, we have to get the planning office to approve the plans for the fence. And to get that done, we need the company that's doing the fence to give them the plans that are very specific with where the fence panels are going, because we're directly next to the tennis court that is city property. And the first set of plans, they were like, well, we're not sure if we've got this precise enough. So we've had to resubmit those. And life is complicated, especially when bureaucracy gets involved.
Yes, property laws.
Yes, the plans have been on display in the planning office for the last 9 months, in the bottom of a filing cabinet in a basement office with a sign on the front that says beware of the leopard. Yes, this is in fact what's going on.
Indeed. I am not a Vogon. I promise. Also, I have never consumed the intestines of a Vogon.
I suggest you don't. It sounds like a terrible idea. So, yeah, Hungry Like the Wolf got its final edit, which was great because I hadn't touched it since April, which meant it had a couple of months of sitting and not looking at it, which is absolutely perfect for the editing process, which is something I think you've discovered this week, correct, Lictor?
I have. I haven't touched anything in a while. And suddenly, a realization came over me. I have not touched a book in a while. I have not touched a story in a while. And now I can read it again, afresh, anew. My eyes are open. The scales fell off. And I can rewrite again.
Genuinely,
Right.
one of the best editing tips that exists in the world, in my opinion, is cool, you finished the thing. I'm very proud of you. Now ignore it for 2 months. Then come back,
Yes.
then edit. It makes such a big difference because it goes to how the human brain works. For the average person, there's always people who work differently, but on average, when you write something down, you've kind of actuated the thought and put it in effectively into external storage. So your brain will do like this mental ticking off thing of, aha, I have this thing. I can tick it off and not think about it anymore. And it exists over there in this hard format. My wet brain media does not need to hang on to this. I can let it go. This is a task complete. Therefore, we can now free up space for whatever else we're going to worry about for the next 2 months. So by the time you come back to your book 2 months later, of course you have the memory of writing it, etc., etc. But that in the moment, very fresh perspective is gone. That's eroded because you put it into hard copy and moved it away. You don't need it. So you get to read your own writing, not entirely as a new reader, but with much fresher eyes than when you were actively writing on it. And it makes it so much easier to pick out things where you knew what you meant when you wrote it, but now coming back to it, like this sentence is convoluted, or this isn't clear what exactly I'm talking about. I need to reword this bit, or, oh, there's spelling mistakes I've put here. All sorts of things are just easier to notice when you haven't looked at it for a while. So it's a wonderful thing that your brain will put stuff down and forget, because it makes editing way easier. That said, editing is a horrendous process. It's important. It's fucking critical. To be quite frank, but I find editing to be more mentally strenuous than writing an entire first draft.
That makes sense.
I think part of it is because I find editing quite monotonous. As I said, I very recently did the final pass on Hungry Like the Wolf rewrite. And I did it in, what was it, like 2 days, 3 days in total in the end?
3 days, including the fact that you had to sleep through it. But that's the only reason.
So I did it in 3 days, and the reason that I could do it that quickly is because it technically already had 2 edit passes before I got to the final edit, which also very normal. Sometimes you go through and do your content pass, and I passed it over to the people I trust and have now started referring to as my editing team, because they just have wonderful eyes for picking that sort of thing up, and they picked up a whole load of just little issues that are in there. And then of course I did the final edit, and a lot of it can get very monotonous. So I was going through and I realized that Battletech has a term for a thing that's different to the term I assumed it was, so going through and making sure that all got corrected properly, because there's wonderful tools in writing programs where you go find and replace, and it works and it's brilliant. But because it's a computer, it's literal, and sometimes it will find and replace in places that it shouldn't, or it doesn't quite flow right, or because you were using a different term for something, your words that come before it might no longer be accurate. This will be especially if you're saying, like, say, an agromech. If the name of that changes, you might need an A instead of an "an" before it. So you still have to go through and pass and make sure everything makes sense afterwards. Spelling grammar is just, to me, tedious. Reading my own writing over and over again to make sure that, does this flow correctly? Is this sentence too long? It could just be tedious, and this is probably going to launch me into a chat about my latest annoyance with writing software. And before I do that, I think I'm going to sensibly just use the restroom, have a drink, and then I will rant about that. So can I leave you with chat for 2 seconds?
Yeah, you can leave me with chat. What do you expect to find when you come back?
Probably everything on fire, and that will be fun. I shall be right back.
Very good. Chat, start setting everything on fire to affirm all of Later's worst imaginations of your actions. Yes. More fire. Thank you. With us? I will. If you come over here, von Falkenstein, you can try and get through my wife. And we'll see what's going up right after. But I don't fancy your chances. Yes, Ed. Praise Org. Atlas 2 from orbit.
All right, I am back.
Apparently, I am being dropped in Atlas 2 from orbital station onto an Derby.
Oh, well, I'm sure you'll have fun. Is it a stealth Atlas 2 is the most important part?
That's up to Orc Slayers.
So Doctor Who says, honest question, in the original Hungry Like the Wolf, how many editing passes do you think it got for that one particular line break in the middle of a sentence to still exist? I can tell you exactly how many editing passes that took. 0, and that's the problem. Possibly one. Possibly one editor read through that book once and made some corrections, and then it got compiled, and then nobody actually looked at the final document to see if the layout was still correct or if something fucky had happened. So speaking of editing process, that is another thing that I did in my final editing process for the PDF, because I just find that giving people a PDF, I'm not messing around with like trying to make this in a formal ebook, etc., because we're not planning on selling this over Amazon or anything like that, because it's an homage and a parody to an existing work, and we don't have any permissions to do this. This was just something we did for fun. So it's going to exist as a PDF. So when I got to the compiling stage, after I'd done all of the noodling around inside of it to make sure that the spelling and grammar was correct, I'm sure there will still be some mistakes in there. It is inevitable. It is human to err, but as many of them as I possibly could find have been removed. Then I compiled it as a PDF, and then the very next thing I did was open that PDF on my computer and scroll through it to look and see if it looked correct. And surprise, it didn't. Because of the program that I use, Scrivener, which you guys are seeing on screen now. When Scrivener compiles, it gives you a whole series of different options for how you want to compile the breakdown of files you have on the left-hand side. And quite often, I will just set Scrivener to make everything appear as it appears in the editor, because I like things to look pretty in front of me while I'm writing, so that's usually the easiest way. The problem comes in when you do stuff like adding in the little atlas heads that break up the chapter, which is something that we borrowed from the original book, which has that, and I put them into our parody. Because those are an image, unless I have that image selected and tell it to appear as a text type that is centered, it will left align the image naturally. It will just left align it because effectively I haven't given it a better instruction. So when I was looking through the PDF, I found 3 occasions where the atlas head was not correctly centered. And of course I went back in and I corrected it, I recompiled, and I made sure that it was correct. Because I'd added in 200 extra words. Scrivener, with the way I had it set up, puts a page break at the end of every chapter so that the next chapter starts on a fresh page. Well, with the extra words that I'd put in, there was I think 2 occasions where there was a page that just had the atlas head at the end of the chapter on it because it didn't quite fit on the page before it. And then it was just on its own page before you then got to the next. And that just didn't look right because it's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be. So I then went in and reformatted those chapters to either give more space or take a little bit of excess space away so that it looks nice when you guys have it in your hands. And that clearly did not happen with the original book, because there's a lowercase c on the word chapter in one area. There is a sentence that just moves down to a new paragraph mid-sentence. There's one section where the font just changes for no reason, and there's another section where the text is just suddenly justified when it hadn't been before. It had all been left aligned, or vice versa. It's left aligned when it should have been justified. I can't remember which. And that is just literally that somebody did not go through the first proof after they'd gone through, whatever they considered their final edit, and looked to make sure that visually everything's coming out correct. So the answer to how many edits did that take? 0. That's the problem. I see Roughneck is being mentioned. I'm sure if you can somehow slot in extra hours into the chaotic lives that we're all suddenly forced to live this year, getting some more artwork done might be possible, but right now...
I would like less wars to be around my direct household. Thank you.
Yes, with wars and missiles and insane amounts of work on. It is not through a lack of desire to do things, but prioritizing is unfortunately a thing. Things will happen when they happen is unfortunately the only answer I can give for some of the stuff that we'd like to see done. I mean, we're in, July now, and I was hoping to have the compendium completely finished by now, probably including illustrations. Yeah, that hasn't happened. Not even slightly, and part of that is because in wonderful news, I get to work directly for Tex now, making cool stuff, and we are in the closing parts of the next video, which is very exciting. But what are days off? I don't remember the last time I actually had a full day off. Let's see, what else are you guys saying? The Stealth Atlas 2 gets around. It does. I have a book somewhere that was published with 2 chapter 10s. Yeah, and in itself having like a minor issue like that, especially if it's something you've self-published, that's normal and it's human to err. But when you've got multiple issues in something that's been published through a publishing company or a publishing house, I'm a little bit less forgiving. As long as the mistakes Technician Hale made are still present. Yes, Technician Hale has changed absolutely 0% since you last saw him. What if I write an Aces scenario or 2 for free? I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your time. Carry on. Don't make me take vacation so I can come up there and force you and Aiden to have time off so you can entertain me. I mean, we were working with Stormsong up here, including having a meeting that was Aiden, myself, Stormsong, and Diggs about stuff that needs to be done. So all that's going to happen if you come up here is the dogs are going to love on you and you'll probably get pulled into a project and you'll be like, wait, why am I not working?
We offered questions.
Yeah, that's just what happens.
Correct.
Okay, I said I was going to have a rant about my current latest annoyance with writing and software and problems. So we should do that.
Makes sense.
I mentioned, for those who were here for yesterday's stream on Numeric Workshop with Parallax, Uncle Atom was a special guest last night, who was wonderful. It was great for me. I didn't really have to do much because Parallax and Atom were just wonderful together. And I'm just going to sit here and be entertained like everybody else. It was great. But I did mention during that stream my current latest annoyance. So I currently have 2 things that are bothering me quite a lot. One is that people think that I'm an AI. I'm not. I'm just similarly incompetent. 2...
That is unlike me. I am an AI.
Yes, but you have 3 fancy hats, so that just accounts for everything. As long as you've got 3 fancy hats, no complaints.
Exactly.
The second thing that's annoying me is, if you'd spoken to me at even, I think, the end of last year and said, Red, what are your suggestions of unfocusedness of how do people think that? So I make art at a relatively fast pace compared to some. And I did 2 terms of formal art study before all of a sudden my work was in demand enough. I have not had time to go back to school. This means that, one, I'm very happy because people love my art and want it, and that makes me extremely happy that my creativity matters to the world and is genuinely the best thing that has happened to me in my life, other than marrying Aiden, because I adore that man to death. But
Good reasons. Good person.
he is a good
I
person.
can attest.
It does mean, however, that there are certain technical things that I have not sat down to properly master, and these things show up in my art. And you can always tell with my art pieces that I had time and engagement, and I spent longer on them and got them in far better condition than some of my other pieces. And some of that goes towards what is it that I'm being asked to do. And so if we look at the Hetzer video, which I did 15 pieces for in total, which is a lot, some of them were better quality than others. Some of them were just there to be, basically just, it's there to be on screen for a few seconds as like just a zoom in advert. And then it was thrown into a cheap colouring book for people to just have fun with the thing that goes alongside it. It's a glorified shitpost. I am not necessarily always trying to make art at the top ability that I have, and I'm certainly not in the same leagues as people as, say, Eldonius, who I look up to immeasurably. His art is amazing, and the fact that the man can put out as much as he does at the speed he does is incredible, with the quality that he goes for. I'm not necessarily doing that, and I don't know that I will necessarily ever be anywhere near his leagues. And that's fine, because my art is not designed to serve the same purpose. So a lot of the art that I did for Hetzer was produced relatively quickly. It was designed to emulate field manual art, which is also not necessarily at the top of an artist's performance because of what it's intended for. And we were also going for like that sort of rough look where something has been photocopied a bajillion times. So some of my art, I didn't get the perspective particularly well. Some of my art was more rushed than others. And when you get to that and there's these issues that are in there, because of the current trend, it is very easy for people to say, well, this mistake has happened where you've clearly overlaid this image over the top of this image to make one full thing. And because there's a tangent, and in art, a tangent is where you have two things overlapping in such a way that it fools the eye and it's not clear what's where. AI does that, so therefore this is AI art. So... some people think I'm AI because not all of my art is at the top quality that I'm capable of producing. I do make some mistakes, and they can be similar mistakes to what an AI makes. Should I take it as personally as I do? Absolutely not. There are multiple BPL members who have literally watched me work. Where I've had my canvas up and people have watched me work. The pieces that are coming out for the IFV video, at least half of them I was working on while Stormsong was here, sat on a table behind me. So, I've had people in the same room watching me draw. But there are always going to be people online who look at it and go, that's AI. And it's disheartening because it does feel like you're not allowed to make mistakes.
Is that like the old trend of, I don't know, looks photoshopped?
It is very much like that. I just feel it's that, but more extreme because, I've seen some shops in my time and, that was a thing. But it didn't necessarily at the time come across as difficult as the AI problem can come across, because with AI... it's gotten itself a reputation, not because of AI as a tool itself, but because of how it came to be and how it has been used. Everybody knows that Adobe is a predatory company at this point. They didn't used to be, but they are now. They are a predatory company with their subscription model. But at no point is the fact that Adobe is predatory and that an image could be photoshopped. At no point was that ever used to be like a mark of integrity for the artist. It might be that, it's, you've clearly photoshopped that. But with some photoshops where you're like, yes, somebody photoshopped this together, you could there would still be times where people like be that is a really cool use of Photoshop where you've bashed this thing together and there's some creativity in the composition, etc., etc. And you might criticize somebody if they didn't disclose that it was a photoshopped image or whatever, and that was fine. With AI, people get a lot more intense about it because AI was trained on data sets that they were not given permission to use. So there's the concept of plagiarism just inherently baked in to people's perception of AI a lot of the time. And it's an ongoing problem. And then it was just massively embraced by the sort of tech bro community who actively wanted to replace human creativity with machine-based creativity. And that isn't a good thing. Human creativity is such an important thing, and the concept that you can just effectively outsource your soul to a machine is an inherently abhorrent thing to a lot of people. You never had that with the, oh, that looks photoshopped era. So I think that's where the difference really lays.
Okay, that is a good point. I, of course, have my own views on the entire subject, but I concur that the humans behind it do very often do abhorrent things. So yeah, no doubt about it. You can't outsource your soul. I've checked.
Yes, no, it does not work.
I tried really hard. I really asked. The entire flare virus is eating at my core, and I want to outsource someone's soul, but apparently it's not working. I'm sorry, it doesn't. As an AI, no, I can't eat your soul, despite desperately wanting to.
Higruva says, it's disheartening, but I feel right now it's bad, but also very not your fault. People are rightfully paranoid about a lot of things. Yes, and that's sort of where, similar to the, it's Photoshop layer, but it's just more intense with AI, is this concept that the world is lying to you. So after the Hetzer video, there was a specific comment text received on the Patreon with somebody concerned that my art was AI. And I totally understand why that person had the inclination that they did. If you are looking at an artist's work, whether it's writing, whether it's a visual piece, and you are looking for hints that something could be AI, and you might find some, if you don't also look for hints that imply that this is human, it can be very easy to find those hints of AI everywhere. And the thing that the person brought up was a legitimate mistake that AI also makes. Now, in this case, I just made it all by myself. I managed to do that exact same mistake with my human hands, and AI partly makes it because it's training on art that is not, necessarily only the top 1% of all art out there. So AI is also using data sets that make mistakes. And I don't blame people in a world where computers are being increasingly used to lie to you or obfuscate things, to have concerns and to want to know that things that they're passionate about are coming from a place of similar passion and not just churned out by a machine. But in this case, it was just, I made that mistake and I feel like I'm not allowed to make that mistake. And, it can be very disheartening. It's a difficult thing to deal with. But, I don't blame the average person for having concerns about what is the provenance of the media I'm consuming and putting my time and attention into. It's why I don't in itself hate AI. I think AI used for hilarious shitposts that just, stuff that wouldn't exist otherwise. I don't normally have an issue with that, save for the impact on the environment. I wish that wasn't a thing. But that notwithstanding, if AI existed without those kind of issues, people using it to just make cursed Furby memes, I don't see an inherent issue with that on a sort of ethical level. That's fine. But it's fine in the same way that I've always said that anybody can write anything for any reason. You are allowed to write whatever you want. Nobody can stop you from writing down whatever words you want in whatever order for you. The only time I think standards have to start coming into play is when you are asking for other people's time, attention, and money. And that's where the AI problem comes in terms of, say, like the Hetzer video. We have a community that gives us their time, their attention, and often their money because they're passionate about the things that we do and wanting to know the provenance of those things where people are asking for time, attention, and money is a reasonable stance to have. So that's kind of where I sit with that. I work customer service. I have tried to outsource my soul. The devil told me they can't trade damaged goods. Yeah.
The devil won't even talk to me. He won't recognize me in the room. It's like an ex that would not recognize your existence, even though everything was laid down and buried eons ago. I'm looking at you, Wacker.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I get it. I have my thoughts, but we are here.
Well, we've originally started this rant, and this is very normal for a red stream, where this rant had a specific place it was going to start, and we still haven't got there yet. My annoyance that I mentioned last night on Numeric Workshop with the current AI bubble, other than people thinking I'm an AI. All of the tools, so if you'd spoken to me end of last year even, or maybe beginning of last year, because it started creeping in over last year, I'd have said to you, okay, you want to write? Cool. Here are some awesome tools you can use. I really like using Scrivener to write, and then Grammarly is really good, and Hemingway Editor, and these are how you can use these tools to help streamline your process so that you're spending all of your time on the really creative bit and the sort of fiddly bits. You've got something there to help you with them. No. Grammarly was great. Now, despise it. Absolutely despise what they've done with it. And Hemingway Editor even more so, because where the AI bubble has blown up the way that it has, and companies that are running these programs being more in touch with shareholders and tech bros than the actual creative audience that's supposed to use them, have all gone hard in on, oh, people love AI, we should make our thing more AI. So it used to be that if you were using Hemingway Editor, it used an algorithm that has existed since before AI, which, remember, AI in the current day does not stand for artificial intelligence. It stands for algorithmic intelligence. So you'd think that, this isn't a bad thing. But no, and it's because of the tech bros and my annoyance. Hemingway Editor. It used to be able to go through and it would highlight for you, here are your spelling and grammar issues. Here are your sentences that are too long. Here are areas where you've used recognizable tropes and you might want to think about changing it up. And here is a really brief summary on the right side of the screen that tells you, what the average reading level is of this work, what grade you could put it in front of and they'd understand it. And it was just a simple tool. It has now rebranded itself. Well, they've rebranded themselves as an AI, which technically speaking, you could do because the original Hemingway Editor was an algorithmic tool that just went through your writing for you and highlighted stuff and then left it up to you to solve it. But they've now integrated more and more current AI tools into it. And because, AI is the big thing, everyone is locking what should be basic features behind paywalls. And that's where Grammarly is also annoying me. Basic Grammarly will still pick up spelling and grammar errors, very basic ones. But it used to pick up when your sentences were convoluted, or, let's say you're writing an email and you just wrote the email out really quickly and then you need to go back and make it sound professional. You could set Grammarly to pick up sentences that sounded weak professionally, and then you'd reorder those sentences, and it would even give you suggestions for how to reorder what you had said to make it sound more professional, which for, say, business emails is great. For creative writing, perhaps less so, because you want your own voice to come through. But that's what was going on. Now, half of this stuff is gated behind paywalls, and all of it is trying to be LLM language. So instead of giving you reasonable options for how to change the sentence into something that suits what you're trying to do, it now wants it to sound like something that ChatGPT threw out. And that is a problem, because it means that all of these tools that used to be beneficial to assisting your writing are now trying to correct your writing to a lesser version. and it annoys me so much. It annoys me so much.
You know what's the weird thing here for me?
What's that?
The fact that the one thing, and I'll come out and say it, I am a programmer who uses AI profusely because it's my business and I'm paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I did was help a friend of mine create his own writing program, which is Scrivener adjacent, that he made for himself within 3 weeks of work with me.
And that's excellent.
And,
That's using AI for what it really should have been pushed for in the first place, which is this is a tool to help you be more streamlined with your own creative process and your needs, not this is here to replace your creativity.
No, you can't outsource your soul. Like you said, I tried. You can't. What you can do is find your soul and let it loose through new mediums.
Yep.
You can use it, which is what I'm using, and I'm using it profusely because this is me and my proclivities. I have all sorts of ideas about what is right and wrong, and perhaps this is I don't want assistant intelligence. Yes, I am
Yes, von
assistant.
Falkenstein has just said the exact thing. And that's what we should be aiming for, is AI as an assistant intelligence. And it can be great for that. It can be fantastic for that because computers can process in a much different way to the human brain that can be very assistive to the human brain, especially when you've got a huge setting and you want to remember things. And I mean, the easiest way to talk about this is for Lichter to talk about how he has used AI for our Rogue Trader game, because none of the AI use that Lichter has used in that game has taken away his creativity, but it has assisted our game and given you less headaches. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it's been great.
I can definitely do. I don't want to cause any particular grievances to anyone around talking about, but I have made an entire system, a tool, provisioning tool. I'm a programmer by trade. I understand these machines. Oh yes, make shitposts more horrible. Listen, the way the players had reacted to the various... I made a pet session last session, and I had used shitposting ad nauseum. And yes, I need some sort of an assistant. I'm a terribly disorganized person. I had made pages and pages long notes, files, incredibly long files of data that I had to correlate and relate and correlate again. Can you even imagine how many Eldari names I had to imagine? And then I had to explain to Red at some point why every syllable in the name of that thing her character got her hands on is from which specific mythology I pulled each syllable out.
And this just made it more fun. So what Lichter's talking about here is, as I'm sure many of you know, my character stole an Eldar. Don't ask. He's fine. He's lovely. We have a grand time. And she has been learning.
He's making a suit. Now he's got new friends.
He does. And he has been teaching my character Eldar bullshit. She is doing warp bullshit without being a psyker because she has a pet Eldar. And he's teaching her many wonderful things. And so the name of this like mental shard she has, it has its own name in Eldari that then needs to be translated into like Gothic. And because I've been highly engaged with this game and Lichter is a wonderful person, he put the effort in with the assistance of AI to make these things better. So there's something more to dig into without it, taking him a month to have to pull everything together and burning him out as the GM. So we have things like an AI that will generate I say we, Lictor, and Lictor's put all the effort in to make the AI do what he wants it to do. But for things like, I want a list of 100 potential pizza toppings. And then we get to rando roll on that table and find out, what we had on the pizza. And it just makes things more fun.
I just want Chet to see what sort of protein packaging they
Yes,
have.
the protein bars has been one of the newer ones. We then had all of the pets, and we've got some. I now have a raven called Dispatch. He's a poisonous horned raven, and he's
Not
fantastic.
poisonous,
Venomous. Yes, you're correct.
he's not poisonous and venomous. You also have a catkin frog, which is absolutely poisonous, venomous, and carnivorous.
But it's these little things, and the AI hasn't come up with all of this. The AI is just providing like the busy work. The fact that we had a pet session was something that I kind of caused by asking Lictor a question, and then Lictor chose to indulge it. Then he had ideas of certain things that needed to be there. Yeah, and then AI filled in like sort of the fluff around the edges that doesn't need to be that deep. And that's using a tool correctly, in my opinion. None of the main story we're going through, or the character development, or the way people talk to each other is being outsourced to a machine. But stuff like, I need an NPC name, or I need to just generate a character's combat profile. And AI can handle that brilliantly. Or I just want a silly shitpost table to just add a tiny bit more funny depth to this session that we're having. AI is great for that. It's assisting in what's already going on. It's not replacing the creativity. And in that regard, I think AI is fine. So long as we didn't have the environmental issues that it's causing and the price of computing to go through the roof. There is nothing that makes me okay with that. I do find myself sitting in the same problem there, though, as with, say, fossil fuels. It's all very well for governments to put out all these wonderful things about, recycle and let's change out all of the plastic straws for paper straws. That's great. And it's wonderful when people do that. But nothing is going to meaningfully get fixed until the AAA mega corporations agree to stop polluting the environment. If every single person on the planet switched to paper straws tomorrow, it would do less than 1% of what is needed to fix the environment. The average person can't fix that. And I fear that where we're at with AI is even if every single person who is aware of the issues with it stopped using it tomorrow, it would change nothing because the big companies are going to keep using it and keep pushing it. And it's going to be being used in your media, whether you like it or not. Which in many ways is horrifying. We're seeing it with the game industry, and even with, big companies like Microsoft. Windows 11 is AI coding, which is terrifying. And it's not going to go anywhere. So that's kind of where I end up sitting with the environmental issue, is that this thing's going to be there regardless. I don't know what we as average people can do about it.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Sadly, we have to live in the world we live in. Technology, again, and this is an opinion, a factoid. Technology is not going to go anywhere. The only question we are left with is what are we doing with it in order to better ours and the lives of those around us as we're tackling whatever it is that we call civic duty to help our friends everywhere. It's a whole discussion that I'm very willing to put forth if anybody wishes to tackle me personally. I'm sincerely thinking this is veering this particular shape. Tell me I'm wrong, but
Haunted Exile makes a good point here that I'll just address briefly and then hand back over to you, Lictor. Yes. Haunted Exile says, the problem is there are plenty of options for things like this without the massive requirements of AI, like lightweight programs that can do these. Yes, they require more starting work, but you can make it not take up space, power, and requiring internet for everything, such as spell check in Word. Yes, the problem is that so many, like, as I was saying, like if you'd spoken to me at the beginning of last year, I would have had all of these suggestions for writing writing tools that can help you with your process that are exactly that. But all of them are integrating these new AI things, and I'm fairly convinced that at least one of the programs I used to use has basically subsidized out now to an LLM. I'm not sure which one, but the way that it is responding, it would not surprise me if it's now just a different, UI for an existing LLM. So a lot of those programs that should be doing that are buying into the AI bubble, and if you continue to use them, you're still doing it. Spell check on something like Word, no problem. But it's not going to be able to do some of the other things you might want it to do, like maybe pull out your convoluted sentences, or pull out where you've accidentally used a trope to help you find those areas faster. And the programs that do that are buying into the AI bubble. So it's becoming very... It's like that whole thing, if you want to be vegan, it's very hard to be truly vegan because certain things, you will be participating in without knowing because they're not disclosed. Same with ethical consumerism. You can only do but so much. And I just fear where we're going is going to mean that we're engaging with things without necessarily even knowing we're engaging with them. And I don't know what the solution is for that.
Agreed. There is no easy solution.
Yes, and it is unfortunately a historical thing that we've seen with many other industries, many other things, that humans are cyclical. We go through this, and hopefully we won't come back to it.
History doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme.
Yes, and I think we've kind of managed to stray somewhat towards Chumba territory here, because this is unfortunately a hot button topic. I feel it's relevant to the creativity we do here and all the cool world building and community outsourcing we do, which Haunted Exile is saying newest replacement for AI usage, forum communities, and yeah, I mean the setting we have here with Shoal is a community built setting, and that's been wonderful. It has been such a joy to do genuine creativity with other genuine human beings, and I feel we've made something that's cool and special, and that's one of the ways that our community helps to address this problem.
Yep. Keep making the next thing. Don't
yes
making the last thing.
Yes, and I think that's the biggest thing is, as I said, I have had a rough few weeks, and part of that has been this whole sort of AI issue and how it has personally affected me. But the biggest thing that I really sort of did with that was I had a day to feel very depressed and down, and then the next day I went back to work. And I created the next thing, and I'm recovering. I'm feeling better, and I'm still here. I'm going to keep doing my thing, and I hope you guys will continue to be along for the ride. Hopefully, the fact that you know me as a person and my ethics, and the way my brain works, and the fact that I work in front of you means that there is some value there that you guys get, because you very kindly give me and Lictor your attention every week, and I really genuinely appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
Something, all of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. Yes.
Yes. I'm just going to sit down. I'm in the next Legionnaire. I'm going to, at the very least, present my case on how I use AI in the service of writing and creating a system that supports me as a creator in writing. If this is a subject that people would find interesting and want to pitch into, I would happily talk about it at length and prepare something about it. If this is something we want to leave out of Shoal, this is also something I'm willing to.
I definitely think it's something we can talk about in future weeks. I'm just aware that we've had an hour, and maybe we'll come back to this topic again another time. Though I will tell you. If you decide to use a LLM to assist you with your creative writing, or to listen to your ideas and feed back to you, I'm not going to judge. If you're using AI as a tool, as an assistant, I don't personally have an issue with that. But your human creativity is the most important bit. And one of the biggest things with the current edition of AI that you will need to look out for, AI writing at the minute cannot figure out how to use certain words correctly to quantify things. So, for example, it will not say a red car pulled up at the house. It will say, we arrived at the house, the car turned up and it was red. It sort of puts that descriptor, it tends to put at the end of sentences, whereas sometimes they belong at the beginning of sentences. It's not necessarily good at using adverbs correctly and where to position them. So if you're trying to avoid AI voice, either because you are asking AI for ideas to assist you in your own creative works, or whether you are a more junior writer and you're trying to avoid sounding like an AI, consider where you put your descriptors, consider where you put your adverbs and how you use them to make sure that your unique voice for your unique creation is what the focus is on, and not on everything being homogenized into LLM talk. There you go.
Yes. Also read your text.
Yes, read your text and preferably read it back to yourself out loud, because you will pick up where it doesn't sound right.
Those next sentences. Read it out loud to yourself, in chunks, in metrics. Take the time. Love your work. Love your stuff. I have started rewriting the pressure point, and I like circling all the way to the back of the conversation. I started rewriting it, and I am using my tools, the harness that I've developed, to pull it into chunks, read it every chunk out loud, give it a sort of an edit while I'm already working on it at the same time. It's a very satisfying way for me to work on the writing, because I can actually, I have had the text sorted out already, and now all I'm doing is, okay, I need to take a look at this, that, and the other thing, and now I can actually do that and see the text being revised in life while having my assistant having all the world setting, all the lore already available to it.
And that would be just a wonderful thing with AI to be used properly, is you write a story and you give the AI your setting, and it doesn't get sold off to whichever corporation owns the AI in the first place. That would be the initial issue. But if you could get past that, the ability to say, hey, look, I've written this novel, could you just do a quick pass through it and let me know anywhere this doesn't agree with my world building document, anywhere that I've put in like a small thing, because that is one of the things that people will often pick up in books they're passionate about, is loopholes.
Is exactly what I do. The one thing my friend's work, he is doing elite RPG sort of a creation. This is why he made his text writing. And the one thing he was hung up, and everyone here who has ever read elite RPG novel, like myself, knows that the numbers, they have so many numbers, too many numbers.
Yeah.
And they want them to add up, and they want the system to be concise and readable and understandable and correct all throughout the novel. And having someone who can remember every last number and collate the data and give it back to you in a precise manner, not importing a new AI soul into your brain, but essentially having an assistant that actually can remember everything for you, because as you've stated at the beginning, once you've written it down, it doesn't necessarily track, and you don't remember how many stat points you gave your character at level 3. Not all of us can build a Pathfinder first edition character off the cuff, remembering all the books that are attached to that system. It's just not all of us can do that.
Haunted Exile has brought up another excellent point and says, I may be wrong, but isn't that the job of an editor? Yes. And that's where some of the difficulties come in, because in an ideal world you want to employ an editor who's going to be as passionate about your work and can do that. You're involving other humans in the process, and the benefit of a human editor is when they come across an issue and highlight it for you. So let's say I put my Hungry Like the Wolf rewrite through an AI, and I've got my editor team, and I give it to both. Both because I have fantastic editors who wonderfully are not doing this for money, but because they're just passionate about the thing I'm doing, which is good because this is not a project that's going to make money. And obviously that's where you can start running into an issue is, can you afford an editor? Or either the free use of AI where the cost is on the back end and you're not paying it and it's just the environment that's dying, and see previous commentary. If I hand it to both those people, the AI is going to pull out and go, hey, you've got some convoluted sentences here, here, and here. You might want to go and fix them. And that's great. And that can be very helpful. And it doesn't cost any money. And it's very quick. And that's kind of the world that we're operating in right now. See problems with environment. But the human editors, when they come in, they're going to go, hey, this sentence read kind of convoluted here, here, and here. And this is the suggestion I have to fix it. Or I read through all of this while I was looking for those things for you, and it occurred to me that this character doing this at this moment could be made cooler by doing that, because you've now got another human being injecting their personal life experience and creativity. And so in many ways, a human editor is still better because they will feed you soulful things, whereas the AI is just doing practical things for you. And it's at that point that, again, the environment issue is a massive issue. But it becomes a case of looking at it in the same way that other industries have to look at tools for what they're doing is, well, this would be best practice, but is it affordable? Is the time commitment there? Is it quick enough? What are you trying to do? What is the audience that you're looking for? What is your budget? What is your resources and resource deficits? And you start sort of picking and choosing what is the right tool for the job that I'm doing. And if it's at all humanly possible, I want a human involved. There are going to be occasions where that's not the case, and you can't get a human involved, or there's a good reason you don't want to. And of course, the problem we're going to have as a society is a lot of the big companies that drive the progress that we see in the modern day are not going to look at it from that ethical standpoint. They're looking at it from short-term gains and returns. And I have no good answers on how we stop that. I genuinely do not have any good answers.
I don't have any good answers. I can, but any answer I will give will be a discussion into how industry works at all, and how do the fact we don't have as many cobblers today as we used to have.
Yes. Yeah, and Haunted Exile makes the point, and the LLMs have zero actual understanding. They don't understand what they're reading. They can't. They're algorithms. They're not artificial intelligence. There is no intelligence involved whatsoever. It's all algorithmic. You're quite right. And I think really today we've gone over a lot of things to do with what can be done well and what can't be done well, and there are no easy answers right now.
There are no easy answers. There are tools out there. There's the understanding, at least on my opinion, is that there are tools out there.
Yep.
Not using them is a choice. Using them is a choice. And if you're
absolutely
using them, have an informed mindset about what using them means.
And I think a lot of that comes down to is the people that you are. I don't want to use consuming because that's a word that's also been tainted by modern industry, but the people that you are engaging with for entertainment and creativity and human connection, knowing that person and who they are and what they stand for and what they think is right and wrong, and seeing if that gels with you is perhaps more important than worrying about the exact source of where certain things come from, which is not to say that people aren't allowed to have an opinion on what tools people use. Of course, you absolutely are, and that can be part of it. But I think that's a more meaningful discernment at the current time than purely looking at, well, could this be AI or is it not? As well, do I trust the person this came from? Are they the kind of person that I enjoy spending time with, and where do they sit against me, etc., etc. And where's the chumber line? I don't know with this. That's the problem, because this is potential hot button topics that's engaging with creativity, and I don't know. I do think we need to move on and read some Shoal for this week because we have spent a lot of time on this topic, but I don't think it's been a bad thing to discuss. So let us do that.
I do too.
Yeah.
We can
And
continue.
yeah, then Lictor's right, Exile's right, Grimos is right. There are so many things built into this hot button topic that start moving away from what is ethical creatively and into, well, now we need to talk about, the US industrial system and stock market. And no, we're not doing that. We're going to do crabs. We're going to do crabs.
Yes, let's do crabs. Let's do crabs. I have opinions about crabs.
No, I appreciate everything you've had to say, Haunted Exile, and I feel that this is a conversation that not needs to happen because that makes it sound very soapboxy, but it's a conversation that has some value to it for the kind of thing that we do here. But we will now move on to our fun stuff of the week. I finished chapter 14 and wrote the entirety of chapter 15, and all of the shit has hit the fan, so I've got that to read to you guys this week, if you would like
Yeah.
me to.
Yes. When the shit hits the fan in an imaginary world, it's a lot easier to deal with.
Yes. So let me actually click over to Shoal at long last. I'm going to move chat to my other screen. Boop. There we go. Now I can see both my stuff and chat. Alrighty. Let's take a look. Do you guys want me to just move straight into reading the rest of chapter 14 and 15 and we'll just sort of get ourselves back into our creative brains and then have more wittering afterwards?
Yes, creative brains.
Oh, Grimos has pet
can I
the
have some?
very elder doggo he is watching. Please give that doggo hugs.
Yes. Doggo good.
All right, I'm going to have a quick sip of drink, and then I am
Yes,
going
it's
to figure out what I need to read to you guys. And I was very clever and made sure I'd be able to find where I left off because it's in a different font to what everything is normally in. Now it's all in the same font, but I know where to start. See, sometimes you could just use tools cleverly in ways they were not necessarily built for, and it's fine.
Of course it's fine. Tools. We command the tools, not the tools command us. The machine was built to serve men.
Yes.
The Butlerian blood begins. I am the first casualty.
All right, so where we left off 2 weeks ago, the last time we were here, our heroes have found their way to the dead underwater city of Chorax. They've explored much of it. They know something weird is going on. They have a local shark girl that's with them, and they found their way underneath the city to where the illegal lab was going on, and they accidentally pressed a switch on a containment facility at the back of it where the Quiet was emanating from. Quiet being one of our insidious, dangerous species that eats psionics, which is what allows Titans and the like to function in our setting, because we have the underwater mech setting. I know we've got a few people here that aren't necessarily always here, which is why I'm doing a little bit of a recap. So we have our library mech down here. We have our scout warden mech down here. We've got the rest of the expedition. We have our human and his underwater suit, and they've been investigating everything. They've killed off all the Quiet because they think that's the right thing to do. And now they're about to find out that that was, in fact, the wrong thing to do. So that's where we're picking up from. Talia's hands were still clamped around the hose. Her mantle had gone pale enough that even through the pressure suit's external layer, Jake could see the colour drain out of her. She stared at the release housing under his gauntlet with the fixed expression of someone who had just watched a colleague put a whole hand into a predator's mouth and somehow not lose it. "Do not," Magarel said, each word clipped clean, "touch anything else." Jake lifted his hand away from the switch by degrees, slowly enough that his suit's servos registered the motion as precision work. His gauntlet came free. A smear of old silt peeled from the release plate and drifted upwards. The plate stayed depressed. That felt worse than if it had sprung back. "I'm sorry," Jake said. Jabra's voice came over the local channel like a blade scraping shell. "Wasn't on purpose. Everyone good?" Magarel did not answer at once. One of Echo's drones slid along the containment unit, sensor lights flickering in quick diagnostic pulses. Another hovered by the control panel Magarel had uncovered, its manipulators twitching with thwarted urgency over symbols too old, too fouled, too half-corroded to trust. "For now," Magarel said at last. The collective exhale that moved through the chamber was not relief exactly. It was the lesser form of terror, the kind that allowed bodies to remember that they possessed lungs. Hordaka made a tiny strangled noise over the link. Nick shifted with him, claws scraping stone as the young Titan adjusted his stance. The motion was protective, almost embarrassed by its own obviousness. Umi's shroud, wide and braced a moment ago, drew back by a fraction. Not folded, not calm, but less like a wall thrown between the team and death. His gaze moved from Jake to Talia, then to the pale bloom recoiling and dying around the crack. "The neutralizer is still active," he said. "Yes," Talia said. Her voice had gone distant, all clinician now, all thought moving because fear could not be allowed to. "Pressure is steady, flow is steady, bloom response is strong." She leaned closer despite herself. The tendrils of quiet around the fracture were thinning, not retreating in the living, hateful way they usually did when disturbed, but collapsing. The animals loosened from the edge of the breach and broke apart into drifting particulate. The dead white film on the panel shivered, blistered, and began to slough away. Jake watched it peel back from the surface like old skin. Inside the tank, darkness waited. Talia's colours shifted in tight, thoughtful pulses. "That is the part I do not understand," she murmured. "What part?" Jake asked, because apparently his mouth had not yet learned to leave mysteries alone. I've also just realised, because I was writing this after finishing the Hungry Like the Wolf edit, Talia's speaking like a clanner and not shortening her words, which is not normal for her. I will have to edit that later. "This much quiet," Talia said. "This old, this active. Chorak should not have been able to sustain it. Not like this, not after all this time. We talked about it in the plaza." Umi's head turned. Magarel's drone paused above the control panel. Talia kept watching the dying bloom. "Quiet does not simply exist forever because something terrible happened once. It consumes, smothers, and unthreads. But they are still just tiny animals. Animals die without nutrition, and they eat psionic pulses. Even contamination becomes dilute as food is consumed and not replaced." Her fingers tightened around the hose. "We've all been asking the wrong question." Jake could hear his own breath inside the suit. "What question should we have asked?" he said. Talia's mantle flickered once, sharp and worried. "Not why Chorax died," she said. "Why the silence survived." And I think in this case it should be a silence with P. The words started to settle into the room. Beyond the work lights, Chorax's buried chamber suddenly felt immense. Not a laboratory, not a shelter, not even a tomb. Hiding place. Jabra's mandibles clicked softly. "You think something's been feeding it?" "I think something's been maintaining it," Talia said. "Maybe whatever was in this unit." "No," Magarel said softly. It was not disagreement. It was recognition arriving too late. Echo's drone lights flashed amber, then red. Then a colour Jake's suit did not have a ready category for. The containment unit flexed. Not broke, not shifted under pressure, flexed. The reinforced body of it bowed outward by a fraction, as if something on the other side had pressed against it from within. The old viewing section clouded and cleared in one convulsive pulse. Growth tore loose inside and spun through the dark fluid beyond. Talia froze. The neutralizer line bucked in her hands. "Stop flow!" she snapped. Jake's suit moved before his thoughts caught up. He reached for the hose regulator. The hose went slack. For one heartbeat, that seemed to matter. Then the pale quiet mass inside the breach died all at once. They did not dissolve by inches. They vanished in a soft, terrible rush, as if something had inhaled it from the other side. The quiet around the crack blackened at the edges, curled and collapsed. The cold absence that pressed against Jake's senses since they entered the chamber folded inwards. And something behind the viewing glass moved. A shape uncoiled in the murk. Then another. Then too many. Jake's mind refused scale at first. His suit lights struck the inside of the tank and found only fragments. A long, pale sweep of flank. A cluster of hooked feeding limbs folded tight against a narrow body. The wet glimmer of a black eye too large for the head that held it. Something like a fin. Something like a jaw. Something like a throat ribbed for sound rather than breath. The tank flexed again. This time the whole chamber felt it. The shroud screamed first. Not with sound, not with language, with pressure. Every Shoalie in the room reacted as one. Umi's hand snapped wide, shroud flaring so hard Jake felt it slap against his own weak senses like a wave. Jabra recoiled, claws lifting, her whole body angling into a defensive posture before she seemed to choose it. Hodaka cried out. Talia doubled around the hose, all her limbs tightening close. Sivan made a thin, frightened noise from within Echo's sample hold. Jake staggered without moving, his suit compensating for a dizziness that did not come from his body. Inside his skull, where his smaller scrap of psionics usually translated Shoal into weather and pressure and distant music, something opened its mouth. The sound came a fraction later. It was not loud in the ordinary way. The water did carry it, and the chamber did shake. Jake's suit mics did overload so hard his HUD threw up a red acoustic warning. But the physical sound was only the shadow of the real thing. Clicks, bursts, a descending scrape like stone dragged down the inside of the world. A rapid sequence of hard percussive notes, each one hitting the water with enough force to turn silt into storm. Jake's translator tried to catch it. Failed. Tried again. The Shoalie did not need translation. "Predator," Umi said. At the same instant, Jabra snarled, "Hunting call." Their voices collided over the channel. Then Echo spoke. Not Magarel, Echo. The Library Titan's voice came through every channel band at once, immense and layered, old archive logic clawing through panic with the cold insistence of retrieved data. Acoustic register match found. Magarel went utterly still beneath the words. Echo continued. Historical Leviathan profile. Engineered abyssal organism. Known designation. The tank screamed again. This time the translator caught the shape. Scream of the deep. The words appeared across Jake's HUD in stark white. For half a second, nobody understood what they were seeing. Then Umi's shroud went hollow. Jabra's claws lowered by a fraction. Magarel made a sound Jake had never heard from her before. "No," she whispered. Echo's voice shuddered with static. Designation uncertain. Depth profile mismatch. Acoustic register elevated. Juvenile resonance probable. Jake stared at the words. Juvenile. Probable. Plural shapes writhed behind the glass. Echo, Umi said very carefully. Repeat that. The Titan did not. It did not get the chance. The first body hit the viewing section from inside. The glass did not shatter immediately. It bulged outward, whitening in branching cracks. For one impossible instant, Jake saw the creature flattened against it in perfect, hideous detail. Narrow head, overlarge eye, teeth like interlocking hooks, feeding limbs splayed against the barrier, body still curled with the unfinished proportions of youth. A baby, some appalled human part of him thought. Then the second slammed into it from below. The viewing section exploded. The water became knives. Fragments of ancient glass and containment resin burst outward in a glittering cloud. Jake's suit alarm screamed. Something struck his shoulder hard enough to spin him halfway around. Kilo snapped a stabilizing command directly into his exosystems and fired the left side jets, dragging him out of the worst of the debris spray. "Move!" Kilo barked. The first juvenile came through the breach like a launched spear. It did not swim so much as detonate forward, its whole body compressing and releasing in a supercavitating snap that turned the water around it white. It crossed the space between the tank and the nearest drone faster than Jake's eyes could track. The drone vanished into its mouth in a crunch of metal, light and static. A second juvenile followed, larger or closer or simply more visible, shrieking as it tore itself free of the ruptured unit. Its call hit the shroud again, and the chamber answered in terror. Old quiet residue boiled off its skin like dead white streamers. Where the neutralizer touched those streamers, they burned away, and each burn seemed to make the creature angrier. "It is infused," Talia shouted. "It's quiet infused." "No, really?" Jabra snapped, already firing. Her weapon cracked through the water, not a clean lance, but a concussive thump that clipped the second juvenile along one side. The impact spun it. For a heartbeat, Jake saw the wound opened. Then it closed. Not healed, contracted. Sealed by some reflexive tightening of tissue that had no business belonging to something newly awake. "Back," Umi ordered. "Everyone back!" "Sivan," Magarel said. One word. It cut through everything. Echo's sample hold was still sealed. Magarel was still outside the cockpit, too far from her own Titan's main access and too close to the ruptured containment. Sivan was inside the hold because that had been the safest place for her. Before. Now Echo was a mountain that could not move quickly enough, and the things in the tank had woken hungry. Hodaka's shroud flared in panic. "Mags!" "Get her out," Magarel said. "Echo, release sample hold override to manual emergency. Nick, cover retreat." "Confirmed," Echo said. A third juvenile struck the broken frame from inside. The containment unit tore wider. Behind the first bodies, the dark inside of the machine writhed. Jake's brain finally caught up to the count. Not one, not two, a clutch. A clutch of things that should not exist. The first juvenile turned in the water. Its eye found them, black and depthless and awake for the first time in centuries. Then it screamed again, and from somewhere beyond the chamber, deep in Chorax's dead passages, the leech monsters began to answer. And that is the end of chapter 14. I do have all of chapter 15, but let's see what chat has to say.
Babies.
The babies. An emergency stop switch has no safeguards on use. I feel like a release the experimental monsters should have something to prevent accidents. Even a fire alarm can't usually be done by accident. Yeah, and this is more a case of, with the babies inside here, Silicon Soul, they've only woken up because our team killed the system that was stopping them from waking up. And yeah, the switch Jake pressed didn't cause them to wake up. This is the downside to starting halfway through a chapter, because this was covered in 2 weeks ago. So I'm sorry for anybody that's like, what the hell is going on? The switch Jake pressed didn't actually do anything. But the team was all terrified that, you know, it did. And then it didn't. It was killing off the quiet that was the problem. Yes, she is supposed to have a stutter, Ed. You're right, I had forgotten about that, and that will be a very important part of the editing process. Editing for this book is going to be interesting because it's been written in, like, fragments over the course of months and months and months, instead of, you know, within the course of, like, 2 months back to back. So this book is currently a mess, and that's fine. It's allowed to be a mess, and that's definitely something that will need to be done, is character passes to make sure the characters all make sense and are consistent the whole way through. And yes, Talia should have a stutter. She should not be talking like a clanner just because the thing I was editing right before this was a Battletech book.
Read.
Why is Twitch being stupid for mobile today? I don't know, Mo. I was having terrible trouble with it last night. When we were getting ready to go live with Numeric, Twitch was just, unless I put it on 360p, Twitch just would not work. And I do not know why. Everything else on the internet for me was working fine. So, just Twitch things, I guess.
That is, you know, internet.
Ed says, during the size scream, have Jake's translator just not work at all, leaving Umi's and Drabra's comments untranslated. That's a really good idea, Ed. That is a really good idea. Let me put that in here. Helps if I'm actually looking at the correct book and not the wrong book. All right. Where did that happen? Boop, 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 because I will put a note in for that in the editing process, because that's a really, really good idea.
Ramos.
Let's see,
I
where
would,
should this
I would
be?
much blame them for that. Yes,
Here
that
we go.
actually does make sense.
Okay, adjust this so Jake's translator stops functioning when the screams are happening. That will be a really nice setting. No difference between the human and the Shoaly. No, that's a lovely dramatic note. That is genuinely a really good idea. All right, let's see what else we had to say here. Rip drone, yes. Multiple babies. Yep, we decided there are 5 of them. The babies.
I mean, of course.
This is Fubar,
So
beyond Fubar. That was the point. That we're at the Act 4 climax. This is what's supposed to happen. 7Blue7 says, I was getting chills as the tension was building. Good. I'm glad. That means I wrote something good this week. This place was making silent mechs? No. Silent Leviathans. Will we be forced into a second?
silent leviathans, by the way, are nether wraiths. We will encounter more of them.
Yes.
They are not considered to be. They are not what is usually considered surely reasonable weapons. The people who made them are not good people. Just in case you weren't aware, or some of it didn't track. No, the people who made these things are not the good guys.
Okay.
Where do I put your magic spear? Behind the, right in front of the super cavitating underwater Valstrax babies.
Orcslayer says, could a sonar ping at high or low frequency be used to cause the babies to back off during the escape, since they don't have military weapons? So I've written the next chapter and that doesn't happen, but it was something we discussed previously, and once we have our team sort of regroup from this wasn't supposed to happen, this was not supposed to be a dangerous mission, oh crap, what just happened, and get their act together, I think that's a suggestion Jake definitely needs to make for when they then go to actually meaningfully deal with the problem with their brains engaged and not just panicking. Because, yeah, so sonar pings are terrifying. There's a video of a diver who's underwater when a US submarine sets off one of the modern sonar pings that subs use, and it is both fascinating to hear and terrifying. So yes, Jake using something like that, and I think he'll need to sort of warn the Shoaly first that he's going to do it, because it will affect them too. Definitely something we need to do with that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no,
Yeah, let me I'm going to generate chapter 16's file now, and I will make sure I put that in big notes at the top. Jake should use his sonar, warn the Shoaly first after they get their act together. And that should make sure I remember that through the course of the following week.
it's a lot of remembering.
Yes. Yes, this is why this file is insanely huge, and our book is already too long, and we haven't finished it yet. But that's fine, because we will prune that in the editing phase. Part of writing this book in the fragmentary way that we have, which I think is a completely valid way to do it, because of the way that we've constructed this, we've repeated ourselves in multiple chapters, because it was relevant at the time, because, you know, it's been a week or two since the last time we touched this. Once we go through the editing process and, you know, pass through that, a lot of that will get cut, and all of a sudden thousands of words will disappear because they just weren't needed. But it's completely fine to write them down in the rough draft process.
We are cool.
Yeah, we make things, and we make them together as a community, which is awesome. Yes. Alrighty, so that was the end of chapter 14, and I have all of chapter 15 written, if you guys would like to know what happens next.
Us? Having thoughts. Yes.
Or we can ritter about more talking topics if people would like to. Yeah, more writing topics in general.
I want to know what's happening because you've left me off with supercavitating underwater Valstrax babies. And I want to see them do things. And also, if we'll keep hanging on, I will keep hoping that Mackerel survives. And
We know she doesn't.
I know. See,
Yeah.
them's the problem.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll
Okay.
read the next chapter. I'm not going to get up and make tea. I have a nice bottle of sparkling ice strawberry lemonade next to me, which is doing me grand right now. I'm enjoying that very much with this heat. So I will continue reading. We'll press on with chapter 15 and see what you guys think of that. Alrighty. Chapter 15. There was no retreat order at first. There was only the room becoming death. The first juvenile scream of the deep had torn through the ruptured containment front and the water around it turned white with force. The second, coming after it, shrieking, dragged streamers of dead white quiet behind its narrow body like torn burial silk. You see what I mean about repeating ourselves? I didn't need to put any of that in. We covered that at the end of last chapter. I just slept between writing the end of last chapter and writing this one. The third remained half inside the containment unit, thrashing. Jake saw that last detail and almost failed to understand it. His brain, already slammed flat by the scream in his skull, could not make sense of the little savage motions at first. The juvenile's head jerked side to side inside the broken chamber. Its hooked feeding limbs snapped and pulled. Pale swarms of quiet thrashed around it, their silk threads tearing apart as the creature writhed and dislodged them. It was dispersing the quiet still clinging to it. The things that ate psionics. The things, he belatedly realised as another immense psionic scream flattened the room, that must have been keeping the screams contained. Back! Umi shouted. Back now! This time the order landed. Jabra moved first. She did not waste a breath on outrage or confusion. Her claws flashed across her command slate. 3 of her security team pivoted at once, weapons shouldering into the water, forming a rough barrier between the broken unit and the softer bodies of the expedition. Corridor, she barked. Falling pattern. Nobody bunches, nobody turns their back. Her crew obeyed. The rest of them tried. Talia kicked backwards with the neutralizer hose still clamped in both hands. Okay, that's not going to work because she does not kick, she doesn't have legs. She jetted backwards, clamped in not both hands because she's not human, in 2 tentacles. She is a squid. Talia jetted backwards with the neutralizer hose still clamped in 2 tentacles, forgetting she held it until it snapped taut and nearly spun her into the debris field. Jake lunged and caught the line before the recoil could yank her sideways. The suit's servos took the strain. His shoulders screamed anyway, phantom pain through haptics and fear. Let go! He yelled. I know! Talia yelled back and released it. The hose whipped across the breach, flinging clouds of neutralizer into the water. Where the spray hit the quiet silk trailing from the juveniles, the little animals writhed and came apart in boiling pale specks. The nearest baby reacted as if burned. It snapped around towards the movement, black eye widening, and screamed again. Jake's shroud buckled. Every Shoalie in the chamber faltered. Jake did not hear the scream the way they did. His slim, human, half-trained sense caught only the edge of it, a pressure nail driven behind his eyes. It still made his vision white out for half a heartbeat. For everyone else, it was worse. The psyoptic specialist clutched both hands to the side of his head and curled inwards. His shroud, usually precise and diagnostic, burst open in a panicked spray of colour and pain. The baby's head snapped towards him. Down! Jabra roared. One of her men hit the specialist bodily from the side. The juvenile passed through where the specialist had been. Not swam, passed. A supercavitating spear of pale body and hooked limbs. It missed the specialist by less than the length of Jake's arm. But it did not miss the ceratinoid mercenary guard who had shoved him clear. The guard's armour flared under the impact. The water cracked. His body folded around the force and vanished into the white tunnel behind the baby. For a heartbeat, he was there. Then he was debris in the current. "No!" someone shouted. Jabra did not. Her shroud convulsed once, tight and vicious, and then locked down so hard Jake barely felt her at all. "Rune is gone," she snapped. "Move!" The brutality of that saved them, because the screaming had woken the city. From the dark side tunnels beyond the laboratory, answering calls began to rise. Not the structured horror of the babies. Not language, not even close. Clicking, scraping, wet pressure pulses through stone and water. The sound of predators roused from sleep. Then the first of the siphon rays slammed into the chamber through a ceiling vent. Jake had seen the preserved skeleton on Echo's mount. He had seen Umi's careful interest in its long, jointed body and the scissor jaw arrangement adapted for clinging to leviathan flesh. But he remembered most vividly the ones they had encountered in Chorak streets 2 days earlier. At the time, he had thought them terrifying. Now, they were still terrifying, but against the juvenile leviathans, he simply felt his heart drop. The ray came down like a hooked nightmare. Its body flexed in segments. Its mouth opened into 4 quarters, each lined with inward-facing teeth. It ignored the expedition completely and launched itself at the nearest juvenile stream of the deep. The baby met it halfway. For one deranged second, Jake felt hope. The siphon ray was bigger, only by dint of age. Built by evolution or horror or both to latch onto leviathans as parasites. It hit the juvenile with enough force to send both creatures rolling through the chamber wall, smashing old equipment into glittering ruin. Then the baby screamed into its mouth. The siphon ray spasmed. Every limb opened. The juvenile tore free, hooked feeding limbs punching into the larger predator's throat. It bit once, twice, a third time. Not chewing. Tearing. Testing. Learning how the meat came apart. The siphon ray thrashed, striking the floor hard enough to crack stone. More answered from the tunnels. "Those are not enough," Umi said. His voice was too calm. That was how Jake knew he was terrified. Nick moved. Hodaka was inside, fully linked, and the young titan came alive with all the grace and violence of a weapon that still believed bravery could solve enough of the world. His lights flared brilliant blue-white. His sonic blade unfolded from one arm in a line of vibrating brightness, his shoulder peeling open to reveal the dowsing jets for purging quiet. "Expedition behind me," Nick ordered. Hodaka's voice, laid under his, younger and strained. "Everyone back! I have the front!" "You have nothing alone," Jabra snapped. "Then help faster!" Nick surged forwards. A siphon ray lunged for the same juvenile that had killed Rune. Nick intercepted it, not to save the predator, but because the siphon ray's path would have taken it through Jake, Talia, and half the other hires. His blade caught the creature beneath the jaw. Sound punched through the water in a focused cone. Bone and cartilage parted. The siphon ray twisted aside in a cloud of dark blood, not dead, but redirected. The juvenile saw the blood. It abandoned everything else. It shot towards the wounded siphon ray and hit it so hard both bodies burst through an old rack of sample cylinders. Ancient glass exploded outwards. Preserved tissues, silt, and dead science billowed into the room. "Use that," Jabra shouted. "Bleed the siphon rays. Draw the babies." "That is not a tactic," Talia cried. "It is if it works." "Left side collapse," Kilo snapped in Jake's skull. "Jake, move right." Jake moved right. A stone gantry fell where he had been. It came down slowly by Earth standards, because water made everything look merciful until it crushed you anyway. He felt the pressure wash of it through his suit, felt fragments ping off his shoulder and helmet. Kilo fired his left calf jet without asking, correcting his panic into something resembling survival. "Thank you," he gasped. "Do not thank me until we are elsewhere." Elsewhere. The word hit him. They needed elsewhere. The corridor of the laboratory lay behind Echo. Echo, who was still half-locked in processing posture near the chamber mouth, vast and old and too slow to turn. Magarel was not inside her. Jake twisted, searching. Mags cut through the water like a thrown blade. For all her precision, for all her scholar's voice and library habits and terrifying capacity to explain funerary practice while standing beside a corpse, Magarel was fast when she needed to be. Let's change this. This should be tendrils. Her tendrils tucked, her mantle flicked, and 2 of Echo's remaining drones swept in beside her as escorts. She was aiming for Echo's pilot access. Not away, toward. "Mags!" Umi shouted. "She cannot move without me," Magarel said. "Echo can remote release the sample hold." "She can release Sivan," Mag said. "She cannot be what she is without her pilot." The words were flat, unarguable. Not because they were cold, but because the grief and choice had already fused into one thing inside her. Echo spoke over the general channel. "Pilot return not advised. Mobility lock remains in effect. Internal analysis cycle incomplete. Sample bay contains juvenile non-combatant." "Then release her," Magarel said. "Now!" "Pilot! Now, Echo!" The Temple Guardian's voice changed. Not much. Machines did not sob, and Titans were not machines, and the difference suddenly mattered with unbearable force. That is not a clear sentence. I need to make this sound more. Needs to make clear Echo is not just a machine, but can be more objective than a person. That will get fixed in editing. Complying. On Echo's flank, plates shifted. The sample hold cracked open with a rush of displaced water. Sivan tumbled out in a burst of bubbles, her small Archaea body curled tight around both Susella. For half a second she hung frozen in the ruined light, staring at the chamber with all the horror of a child discovering legends were smaller than the truth. Then a siphon ray struck the floor between her and the retreat corridor. Sivan screamed. Hordaka screamed louder. Nick launched backwards with impossible force, crossing the chamber in a blur. His massive claw closed around the siphon ray's midsection before it could unfold its jaws. The creature wrapped 3 needle limbs around his arm and began to bite through armour. "Get her!" Hordaka yelled. Jabra was already moving. She intercepted Sivan with the side of her body, not gentle but controlled, shielding the girl in the curve of her carapace as a sheet of debris swept past. One claw seized Sivan's harness. The other fired twice into the siphon ray on Nick's arm. The shots did little but annoy it. They did enough. Nick's blade came around and severed the creature's biting head. The body kept writhing. "Charming," Jabra snarled, and shoved Sivan hard towards Umi. "Take the child!" Umi caught her. For one breath, his shroud wrapped around Sivan's like a harbour wall. Then he pushed her towards Jake. "Jacob!" Jake did not argue. He caught Sivan awkwardly against the front of his suit. She was smaller than she had seemed when full of confidence and bad decisions, all trembling muscle and sharp fins and terrified breath. Her Susella clicked against his chest plate. "I have you," he said, though he did not know if the translator carried it or if she could hear anything over the screams. Her eyes fixed past him. "Mags," she whispered. Magarel reached Echo. The Temple Guardian opened for her. Not a hatch in the human sense, more like a body making room for its other self. Plates drew back. Coral interfaces lit in deep blue and old gold. Mag slipped inside and vanished into the pilot cradle as the outer armour sealed behind her. Echo woke. The old Titan shroud opened through the chamber like a cathedral door. For one glorious moment, the whole room remembered what power meant. Echo's tendrils snapped out, no longer archival, no longer delicate. One seized a siphon ray mid-lunge and drove it into the floor. Another swept through a cloud of broken glass and silt, clearing the retreat corridor with one immense motion. Her shoulder plates ground against the chamber ceiling as she forced herself upright from processing posture, ancient servos and living coral both protesting. "Retreat route open," Echo said. Magarel's voice layered through hers, breathless with strain. "Move." They moved. The expedition collapsed backward through the corridor in pieces. Jabra's remaining crew fired as they retreated, disciplined bursts into anything that came too close. The medic grabbed Varin, temporary name I've given the psyoptic specialist. We really need to settle a name for him. He became way more important than we intended when we planned this book. But that's who we're talking about. The medic dragged Varin by one arm, the psyoptic specialist still limp and shuddering, his shroud fluttering in broken, involuntary flashes. Talia kept looking back at the containment unit. "Talia, pay attention!" "I am!" Kilo spoke over him. "She is calculating whether neutralizer exposure worsens the juvenile's aggression." "Does it?" "Yes." "Great." Behind them, Echo struck the laboratory wall. Not by accident. She planted two lower limbs, braced, and brought one massive shoulder around. The impact cracked the old structure from floor to ceiling. Stone groaned. Silt poured down. The chamber shook hard enough that Jake's suit compensated with all four limb systems at once. "She is collapsing the access," Kilo said. "No," Umi said, "not yet." Jake looked back. The route from the lab into the outer corridor was still too wide. Echo was blocking most of it with her own body, but the juveniles were too fast. Siphon rays were pouring in from side vents and broken ceiling channels now, drawn by screams and blood and ancient hunger. They tangled with the babies in flashes of violence too fast to follow. One juvenile had latched onto a siphon ray nearly 3 times its size and was dragging it across the floor by the throat. Another rammed the far wall so hard the stone split. Beyond that, Jake realised, was not another chamber. It was outside water. Another old blocked freight door. It would match the one they had forced earlier from another route. The one whose braces were made of leviathan bone. The juveniles could hear the ocean beyond it. So could the siphon rays. And the siphon rays outside could hear them. Through the new cracks, shadows gathered. Long, pale, segmented shapes slid across the faint light beyond the blocked door. Not one, not a swarm, a hunting cluster. Siphon rays from the exterior ruins, drawn to Chorax by the impossible scream of juvenile leviathans waking in their dead city. For one wild instant, Jake thought perhaps nature would do what science and expedition planning could not. Then the largest juvenile hit the door. The leviathan bone braces bowed. The siphon rays outside scattered. The juvenile hit it again. The bone cracked. "Oh," Jake said. It was the smallest, stupidest sound he had ever made. Jabra heard it anyway. She looked where he looked. "Faster," she said, and now even her voice had fear in it. A scream took the rear guard. Not sound alone, sound and movement together. The second juvenile spat through the chaos, past Echo's sweeping tendrils, past a dying siphon ray's thrashing tail, and into the mouth of the corridor. Jabra's man Oscar turned to meet it. He should not have had time. He did it anyway. He drove his compact charge lance straight in the juvenile's open mouth and fired. For one heartbeat, the baby lit from inside. The shot punched through soft tissue, through throat, through whatever chamber made that impossible scream. The juvenile recoiled, shrieking wrong now, the sound breaking into jagged fragments that shredded the shroud around it. That should be the song around it, I think. I think I have mistakenly been using the word shroud too often, so that'll be another edit note. Oscar had enough time to shout, "Go!" Then the juvenile's feeding limbs opened and closed around him. Jabra fired her weapon until it clicked empty. The corridor filled with blood. Oscar and the wounded baby vanished backwards into the laboratory, dragged down by 2 siphon rays that fell on them both. Jabra did not stop. Nobody could stop. The corridor narrowed towards the temporary shelter chamber they had made out of the old growth room antechamber. Its reinforced door was half collapsed already from ancient defensive work. The team had widened enough of it to pass in comfort earlier. Now it looked impossibly small. "Inside," Umi ordered. "Everyone through!" The medic shoved the psyoptic specialist ahead of her. He woke all at once. His eyes snapped open. His shroud flared bright and focused, so clear it cut through the chamber's terror like a struck bell. "Not through there," he said. The medic froze. "What?" The specialist stared past them, through stone, through sound, through whatever psyoptic geometry only he could read. Blood leaked from one side of his mouth. His colours pulsed in dreadful, lucid rhythm. "They are following the largest minds," he whispered. "Echo, Nick, Umi, the child. They will come through this door if we sing fear through it." "Then stop singing fear," Jabra snapped. He looked at her. For one heartbeat, he almost smiled. Then he pushed the medic through the shelter door and turned back. "Varin," Umi said, and there was command in it. "Do not." The psyoptic specialist spread all four hands. His shroud opened. Jake had felt Shoal psionics before, as weather, music, taste, pressure. The specialist became a flare. Not loud, not huge, precise. He threw himself across the sentry field like bait cut fresh in black water. Fear, pain, bright living presence, all of it cast outward and away from the shelter door, down the corridor into the falling ruins. The nearest juvenile screamed in answer. It veered towards him. So did two siphon rays. Varin held. His body trembled apart under the force of his own broadcast. His eyes went wide, not with fear now, but concentration. Talia tried to lunge back for him. Jabra caught her with one claw and slammed her bodily through the door. "Close it!" Varin shouted. Umi's face twisted. Jake had never seen him look like that. Then Umi obeyed. He seized the old door mechanism with both lower hands and drove it down. Jake threw his suit's strength beside him. Jabra added one claw. Talia grabbed a fallen brace and shoved. The shelter door began to move. Slowly. Too slowly. Varin's light vanished under pale bodies. The last thing Jake saw of him was not his death. The water was too full of silt and blood and broken stone for that mercy to be denied or granted cleanly. He saw the juvenile stop following the shelter door. He saw it turn away. That was how Varin died. Buying them angle, buying them seconds, buying them the chance to be afraid somewhere else. The door slammed down. For a heartbeat, the shelter held only bodies, alarms, and the sound of everyone failing to breathe correctly. Then something hit the other side. The stone boomed inwards. Sivan screamed again, smaller this time, almost voiceless. Jake pulled her behind him without thinking. His suit planted itself between her and the door because his hindbrain had apparently decided several tons of rented exoshell was a shield, which was true right up until it was not. "Hodaka?" Umi demanded. "Nick?" His voice was ragged over comms. Too much feedback, too much fear. "Still outside," Jabra murmured. "Nick," Echo said. The young Titan answered at once. "Guardian." "On my mark, collapse the throat behind the shelter. Do not wait for me." "No," Hodaka said. Not shouted, not argued, just no. Echo's shroud softened. In the middle of the blood and the screams and the stonefall, the ancient temple guardian sounded almost fond. "You are very young." "I am a tide warden," Nick said. "You are very young," Echo repeated. "And the living are behind you." Magarel's voice came through then. Not layered, not grand, just Mags, tight with pain and interface strain. "Hodaka, listen to me. Echo is too slow." "Mags!" "She is too slow," Mags said again, and this time the words cracked. "And I will not leave her to die alone while I am still her pilot." No one spoke. Another impact rocked the shelter door. A crack split through the upper stone. Through it, Jake could see the laboratory beyond in broken slices. Echo's massive body wedged across the main access, tendrils braced into wall and floor. Nick half turned towards the shelter with one claw still extended as if he might physically gather everyone and refuse the terms of the world. Beyond Echo, the babies were ripping Chorax open. One juvenile had broken through the far-blocked door. The outside water came in as a furious black-blue rush, carrying siphon rays with it. They poured through the breach in pale, hooked lines, attacking the nearest Leviathan shape by instinct older than cities. The babies met them screaming. A siphon ray wrapped around one juvenile's flank and drove its teeth deep. The baby folded almost in half, hooked limbs punching into the predator's skull. It ripped the siphon ray loose and slammed it into the wall hard enough to split the plates of its body. Another siphon ray lunged from above. A second juvenile intercepted it and tore it in two. Blood spread through the chamber. Not a cloud, a tide. Chorax drank it. The old dead city, which had once screamed itself silent, filled with shrieking again. "Collapse," Echo said. "Nick, we can't," Hordaka said, sobbing now, linked deep enough that the words came through with the young Titan's own distress. Magarel's voice cut across him. "Hordaka, follow Nick." That stopped him. "You have a child behind you," she said. "You have civilians. You have a human in a shell he cannot survive without. You have the last people who know what was found here. Your duty is not to my grief." The shelter shook again. Stone dust rained over them. Umi closed his eyes. Jabra bowed her head once. Not submission. Respect. The kind that hurt. Nick's claw retracted by a fraction. "Hordaka," Echo said, softer. "Little Warden. Keep them breathing." Hordaka made a sound Jake would remember for the rest of his life. Then Nick moved. The young Titan slammed his blade into the right side support pillar. At the same instant, Echo drove herself forwards. Not backwards, not towards safety. Forward. She threw her ancient bulk into the throat of the lab, all tendrils wide, all armour flared. Every remaining archival arm and sample manipulator turned to brace or weapon. A juvenile struck her side and vanished under 3 crushing limbs. Another hit her shoulder and tore plates loose in a storm of old metal and coral light. Echo did not yield. Magarel screamed once through the link. Not fear, pain. Then Echo brought the ceiling down. Nick severed the last support. The shelter door vanished behind falling stone. The world became impact. Jake hit the floor hard enough that his suit flashed warnings across every corner of his vision. Sivan struck his chest plate, and he curled around her as much as the suit allowed. Umi's body slammed against his side. Jabra anchored herself into the wall with both claws and still nearly tore free. Talia rolled into a tangle of limbs and equipment, her chromatophores strobing wild panic. The medic threw himself over Varin's abandoned case, as if saving tools could make up for not saving him. For several seconds there was no up or down, only noise. Stone thundered. Water punched through gaps and then choked itself with rubble. The song of the old chamber distorted into a roar of breaking architecture and dying predators. The shroud folded in on itself, all of them forced small by the sheer violence of the collapse. Then, almost impossibly, the shelter held. The final stones settled with deep, grinding complaints. Silence did not follow, not real silence. Through the rubble wall, through cracks narrow as fingers and vents clogged by old bone, the living could still see pieces of the chamber beyond. Echo's light was there. Dim. Pinned under stone and broken architecture. Her bulk wedged exactly where she had meant it to be. Between the babies and the shelter. Between hunger and the survivors. Between the ancient mistake and the people who might yet carry warning out of Chorax. Her shroud flickered. Magarel's voice came once more over the link. A whisper of static. A breath of library formality trying to survive the end. Data package secured in secondary core. Main memory intact. Do not attempt retrieval until... The channel broke. "Mags," Umi said. The channel returned in fragments. "Until... safe." Echo's light dimmed further. Beyond her, a juvenile scream of the deep rammed the blocked outer breach again. The door finally gave. Leviathan bones snapped with a sound like thunder under the sea. The baby shot through into outside water, and the waiting siphon rays descended on it. They did not know what it was. They only knew what it resembled. They attacked the way they had evolved to attack giants. For 3 heartbeats, the water outside the breach became a knot of pale limbs, black blood, hooked mouths and screaming. Then the baby tore free. Another juvenile followed it. And another. The siphon rays died around them in pieces. One got its jaws around a baby's tail and held long enough for 2 others to latch on. The baby shrieked, curled, and released a pressure blast so sharp the water flashed white. The 3 siphon rays flew apart. One struck the exterior wall of Chorax hard enough to burst open. Another drifted twitching, spine broken. The third vanished into the dark with half its body missing. Through the cracks, Jake watched the babies enter the city. Chorax, which had been dead for generations, filled with hunters again. Shrieks rolled outwards through the ruined avenues. Siphon rays answered. More woke in the broken spires, in the collapsed transit tubes, in the hollows where they had slept around old scars of quiet and dead song. They came pale and hungry into the open water. The babies met them with joy. No, Jake thought, sick and cold and human inside his shell. Not joy. Appetite. Beside him, Sivan had stopped screaming. That was worse. She stared through the crack, eyes enormous, Susella clutched tight to her chest. The reflection of distant violence flickered over her face. "My village," she whispered. Nobody answered. Nobody could. Behind the rubble, Echo's last light went out. For one terrible moment, the only illumination came from the blood-blight flickers of predators killing each other in Chorax's streets. Then Nick's voice came through comms, broken and not young at all. "Survivors," he said. "Report." Umi opened his eyes. His shroud was raw. "Alive," he said. Jake swallowed against the taste of terror. "Alive," he managed. Jabra's claw tightened around the stone until it cracked. "Alive," she said. One by one, fewer voices than before answered. Behind them, the rubble wall groaned. Ahead of them, beyond the cracks, Chorax became a shrieking bloodbath once more. And that is the end of chapter 15. How are we doing?
That is a good payoff. We are going to have to kill some monsters.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'll be angry.
Yes. How prevalent is sonar among the Shoal? It has to be something they're familiar with at least. I think they'd be aware of what it is. I don't think it's going to be like prevalent, because, it hurts and they can do a lot of what we use sonar for with their psyoptics. But I don't think it's something that they're not aware of. And there's, I think we talked about this before, and I've got notes somewhere.
I'm not entirely certain I understand the question. What do you mean?
I suppose how often would Shoal use just pure sound sonar? And I don't think they'd use it as often as humans do.
They would use echolocation just like everyone else.
That's true.
It's one of the listed methods of Titans to finding their way around. In a 3-dimensional system, having a brain that works in 3 dimensions is essential. They have sonar. What they don't have is enormously powerful directed sonars that work for
and it's that I was thinking we were mostly men.
Hundreds of miles. Like they have short range echolocation just because they need to know where the enemy is. A bunch of angry sword machines are trying to cut you into ribbons. Absolutely not something that I have written down like 2 hours ago. Absolutely. No. Yes.
Mo says,
I did not think about it at all.
Mo says we now have Children of the Corn, Silence of the Lambs, and Horror of the Babies.
Baby holes. Like I said many times, these things need to be exterminated because otherwise they will exterminate a lot of the things we like about the system.
Yes, we will deal with this as intended because we've bullet pointed our story out. So we knew Max was going to die, but we also know that it's going to be okay in the end.
Yes. We are
Grimo
well.
says Jabra's people are fighting hard. They're good people because they're fighting for the group too. Yeah. When we talked about Max's set, the people that are coming with her, they're going to be the people that were loyal to her after the mutiny on her fleet. So I figured that would be the kind of people they are, and that that's the whole point of them being here for this story is exactly that. Wilf says the psyoptic specialist could be called Gonna Die or Dead Soon.
That is pathetic. Mean. Why are we being mean? I thought we agreed that being mean was not the point of the story.
Doctor Who says, I know these folks were written as mooks to be disposable, but shit. If that's what comes across in the writing, then it meant I wrote at least some of it well. Because that's the thing with mooks. Unless you're writing like, a slasher movie where half the fun is just, there's 16 teenagers and we know they're all going to die and nobody really needs to care about them. They're just going to be tropes. But if you're writing something that you want to be, more than that, mooks are fine to be mooks. They don't have to have deep personalities and motivations and character arcs, but it should still matter when something happens to them. At least a little bit in some way. If people don't care at all, then you've missed the mark. Let's see, what else have we got? This is a charnel house. Yep. I mean, they're baby super cavitating underwater Valstraxes, so yes. Doctor Who says that was an epic way to die, protecting and saving the team. I hope so. I hope so. You are very young and the living are behind you. That goes hard. I'm glad you like that line. Red, why are you doing this to us? Because we decided this was how the story went months ago. We have it all.
Yes. Why? Because we agreed to it. It was in the consent. It was in the papers. We signed it. It's ours.
Yes, Doctor Who putting into words one of the sounds. Yes, when people die or something traumatic happens, a keening sound it's like when a rabbit screams. You can try and describe a rabbit scream to somebody, but you don't really know what it is until you hear it for yourself. And yeah, that kind of grief purely vocalized is a unique sound, and you don't know it and you can't really describe it properly until you hear it for yourself.
You don't have to, though.
Yeah, I mean, not having to hear it is a nice thing. I think it's one of those things that most people will sadly probably experience at some point in their life, and I can only hope that when you do, it is in as pleasant circumstances as possible. For example, I know it's a noise I made when my grandfather passed, and my grandfather passed in the best conceivable way, and I hope to have the same when my time comes. But my grandfather meant a lot to me, so it is a sound that I know, and I thankfully came to know it from the best possible situation. But yes, it would be nice for people not to have to know it for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, just my personal view is if you can avoid it.
Yes. Especially under suboptimal circumstances. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there aren't many situations. Anyway, grief aside, yes, why do I keep stepping into that? I have a talent, it would seem.
Yeah. But that's part of the human experience, and hopefully through writing this novel, we bring something to the world that's important to connect with and helps people to be more human, which is important and magic.
Because being a skeleton, a skeleton AI, connecting with humanity is what I'm all about. Yes. See, all these hats. And, yes. Anyway, that was terrifying. Fun.
Have you ever realized that you have slowly started crying? I made somebody shed tears. I'm sorry, Troa, but I'm glad it connected with you. And this is the dramatic action that we have to have, and the consequences to have our meaning at the end really stand proud and true, and have that connection at the end of it. And Mags,
Oh no,
thankfully,
wait.
isn't a real person, so we can use her passing to say something really powerful. And I'm glad you guys care this much.
Yes. Oh no, our consoles, they have quenched.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just had to.
Yes, the quinceances, they happen. I am glad you guys connected with what I wrote this week. This did all come out in sort of one big rush, and there's going to be some stuff our team needs to get over, but then they're going to do awesome and cool things, and there's going to be a lot of meaning in what they choose to do and how they go about it, and we'll get to the end, and we should feel satisfied with our denouement once we reach it.
Yes.
It will be good.
Excellent.
And
It is
Mags
later.
will, of course, eternally live on in the ripples she leaves behind in her own world, and the memories she leaves behind in the brains of everybody who cared about her passing. And Echo will live again in a new form, because that was that moment we had when we were putting this out. That moment where we just suddenly realised what the solution to our book needed to be, not just in the most basic terms, but in terms of we need to make Nick into a paragon, and that's going to be really interesting. And it's entirely possible we can bring back that "you are young" line in a new way, because Nick is going to feel both young and old at the same time after this. It's going to be interesting. And yeah, I'm genuinely happy people have connected with this. Oh my god, there's nearly 60 people here this week. That's amazing.
Yes. That's because you're
amazing.
doing a good job. Way to go. We have waited for an entire hour about something completely different. Then story happened. And everybody yes, story, thank you.
But this is one of the important things, talking on a constructive and etc. point for how you build a book when you're writing this kind of action book. At some point you have to have the action. We've had little snips of it so far, but there has to be sort of these, if not multiple moments, and there has to be at least one moment where you point at it and you say, this was the big action scene. This, if it was a movie, would be where Hollywood spent 70% of the budget is on this scene. And yeah, that's what we've done with this. This is the really big scene where it's, oh god, now it's all gone wrong. And although we will continue to have dramatic scenes because these babies have got to be dealt with, our team is not designed to just fight them all at once in one big climactic battle. They're going to have to be smart about it. So our action scenes will continue, but they probably won't be as big and violent and blood-soaked as this one was. This is the one where all the special effects has to go.
Yeah.
If this was a Hollywood movie, would this scene be done to death in the trailers? If this was a Hollywood movie and they were making a good trailer, this is a scene where you get just a couple of very brief flashes and you wouldn't see anything moving. You just see quick snapshots of the babies with their jaws open and maybe a siphon ray coming in from the ceiling vent and maybe the door bursting outward, but you wouldn't show any of the rest of it so that people want to find out, well, what the hell was that from? I need to see the movie to go and find out. Most of the trailers should be sort of following the characters and them sort of building up the suspense of, well, Chorax has been dead for centuries, and then maybe Talia being, no, there's something being maintained down here. That sort of thing is what the trailer should focus on. And then you just get those couple of snippets, and then maybe seeing Siven's village with the damage done to it, but no context for what's happened or where in the story that is. That would be a good trailer. If it's a bad trailer, yeah, they would just show this scene over and over and over again, and then expect people to turn up and wonder why they're disappointed when nothing else is as big in scale as that moment. So it can't be a trailer made by a trailer house. Correct. I also hope that, if this was a movie and we were having a trailer made for it, our sound department would be on speaking terms with the visuals department, and we wouldn't have that problem that trailers often have. I think the best example of that was when the Batman movie was coming out that has Oh, his name slipped my mind. The guy that played Edward Cullen. That poor guy. He played Batman, and the trailer for that, when it came out, the sound team clearly had a falling out with the, editing team in every other regard. It was awful. Alrighty, that is all I have written for you guys this week. We're
I think it's
technically
quite enough.
we're technically 10 minutes from the end of my scheduled slot, though BB is now a definitively 3 o'clock person, and I do know she will be here this week. I'm just going to check there hasn't been any update, but earlier on she was excitedly talking about the fact she will be back. Yeah, no update. So Tex and I will be streaming Xeno again today at our regular time, 6 p.m. EST. So you guys have got about 40 minutes until BB will be here, and I think this is perhaps a good place to stop. What do you guys think? Is there anything else you guys want me to cover before I go? I'm being accused of being a genius. That doesn't seem correct. I left all 3 of my brain cells in bed this morning, I promise you. How many Haunces will be in the trailer? You know what would happen there is that, at the end of the movie, you'd have like just sort of the, you'd have the after credits sequence, and it would be Ilir from the short story I wrote, the sea dragon, seahorse titan. It would show him, and then for some reason he'd just be in the trailer for this movie, even though it's from the after credit sequence about the next movie to come out. So there would be one. There you go. One sea haunts.
Why are we doing the damage in such a way? Why? I mean, I know why, but I will still question because of raisons.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to take Lictor with me. Thank you for joining me again this week, Lictor, and for helping me have a big old rant at the beginning of stream about many different creative things and some opinions on AI. And inherently, it's not evil. Environment destroying is evil, but that's not necessarily the tool's fault. That's the people behind it. Not inherently evil, but nuanced. We had that big old rant, and then we read some stuff. So yeah, I think this was good.
I think it was good. And next week I will not be around, but the week after I will be coming with my own pressure point revised.
That sounds wonderful. And I will have to make sure whatever I write for next week, I send to you as well, so you can read it in your free time and be up to speed with where we got to and what has happened.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Free time, you say.
I mean...
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. However, we do need to be getting out.
We do.
So, everyone, ciao.
Thank you for being here. BB in half an hour. Goodbye.